Thank you.
Okay, you know, we're in these meetings in a fog all the time.
Yeah. I really am.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone to our regularly scheduled July 6th City Council meeting. Kay, could you call the roll?
Harold,
Here.
Hollenbach,
Here.
Leontis,
Here.
Phipps,
Here.
Robinette,
Here.
Roland,
Here.
Zanfordino.
Here. All right. The minutes from our June 15th meeting were distributed prior. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? All right, hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, properly moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Correspondence. Kay, do we have correspondence this evening?
Yes, I have one item from the Finance Director, Brian Bouchon, is a listing of budget transfers to be made for this month, and those require your approval.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the budget transfers?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, properly moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All righty. Mr. Mayor, I understand we have a special recognition this evening.
We do. Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to ask Lori to join me. We'd like to take just a couple of minutes to recognize the efforts of one of our many fine Public Works employees. Andy Sargent is a member of the Public Works Division. He's here this evening along with his wife, Ann. And we wanted to take just a minute and recognize his outstanding work as a response to the challenges presented by COVID. If you were to go to most any of our city facilities that interact with the public, you would see that there's these really great looking, very effective barriers that have been put in place to protect our employees and also those that are coming into our buildings to conduct business with the city. We have Andy to thank for all of that work. And we're really grateful for the work that he's done. It's incredibly professional. It's really efficient. He's been spot on. The request has been made or the need has been identified, and Andy has been there. So we just wanted to take a couple of minutes and recognize his efforts. Lori, I think you could probably provide a little more detail of just what all Andy did.
Well, if you draw your attention to our screen up here, you will see some of the fantastic work that Andy did in our buildings. As you know, our facilities are on the old side in some cases. And so we required to make the barriers that were necessary. We required a lot of custom made items. Andy did all of these here in our public works shop. He was professional. He has such a can-do attitude. He's one of those people, looks at a challenge and just says, calculates in his head, yes, I can do that. And then he goes and he does it. And he does such an outstanding job. He is such an asset to the city staff. We are so thankful, and we are glad to have somebody not only who can do this level of work, but has really provided a safety measure to our employees. As you know, a lot of our employees sit close to one another, and keeping them safe is something I know this council has prioritized, is something we've prioritized as well. So to get them back working here with the public, it required all of these modifications. Andy did all of those. And so we wanted to bring him here this evening so that you could all meet Andy. Danny Ziegler is here too, his supervisor. Want to say anything?
Yeah, as you can see, that's one of my handiwork. They just asked, hey, can you build a screen to protect us? This is a quick idea I came up with.
All right.
Simple, it stands, kind of bounces against each other, so nothing screwed to any of the desks or anything. It's just
Wow.
Wow.
freestanding, most of it.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
a couple of these are screwed in place, obviously, that fill in windows, but
Yeah.
And we should also note, you can see here, this is podium. He makes those. What else have you made?
My books,
Conference
my
tables.
bookshelves,
Yes.
Wow.
all my bookshelves.
behind
Holds
it.
hundreds of pounds of books.
Pretty much, if you look around the city and you see something that's really well made, it's likely this is the man behind it.
Even the little things you don't notice, the skirting right out front of the table up there, that was Andy. He matched that perfectly.
Yeah.
All right.
Both boxes,
Mhm.
All right.
sound system box.
Really, really professional work. We thank you very much.
Right.
Need to-
Andy-
I need to
Andy,
get your phone number. I got a couple projects.
Yeah.
A little side hustle we can put together. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you on behalf of all of City Council, and in better days, I will shake your hand. Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty. That brings us to lobby visitations. Kay, do we have anyone signed up for lobby visitations this evening?
Yeah, we have 3 individuals.
Okay.
The first person is Wendy Manning. State your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. Wendy Manning, 865 West Worcester Street. All right, thanks. I think I've been in contact with all of the council members in one way or another. And you might ask, why do you still have to come? But I feel like I need to amplify my message with a personal presence, even though I feel it's a little risky to be here for my health and for the risk of my family. I was told to bring family and friends and neighbors, but I can't because they are also at risk and they're caregivers. And I don't think it's appropriate for them to have to come here and risk their health to participate in democracy. So I wish this were a better environment for everybody. I'm a long-term resident of Bowling Green. I've been here for over 20 years. I live here, I work here, I vote here, I spend money here, I support our community in many ways. I see the Census 2020 bags, huge fan of that. Why I'm here is I'm in favor of a mask mandate for Bowling Green. We've seen this in many other cities. We've seen this in many towns, smaller and larger than Bowling Green. I think it's very important that we strive to be a healthy community. We not only want to avoid death, but we also want to avoid illness and sickness in our town. And we want to be sure that people can be as healthy as possible. We have no protocol for how to care for people who have COVID. We've heard of horrible stories of people on ventilators for a long time. I don't know how many of you have seen somebody trying to breathe on a ventilator. It's truly horrible. And I don't wish that upon anybody. We don't know what the long-term repercussions of this kind of health crisis are. And I think we should strive to do better and make sure that we're all healthy by wearing masks. I think it's important that we're proactive rather than reactive. So we could wait till things get really horrible. Or we could actually do something now and create an environment that will be healthier when students return to Bowling Green, so that our residents who live here are healthy, as well as the students who are coming back, who are all vital for our economy here. I think Bowling Green has a great history of supporting these kinds of causes. I look back and I saw in 2001, we supported the Clean Air Act, which was to make a smoke-free environment in public places and workplace. And we did this as a city before the state of Ohio. The state of Ohio ratified this in 2006, and we did it in 2001. So how about we do that again? We don't have to wait for the state of Ohio. We can take care of ourselves and our community by voting on something like this. We all agree that it's not okay to smoke when you're walking through Kroger. It's not okay to smoke when you're in a city building. It's not okay to smoke when you're a teacher in a school. We do those things because we think it's important to protect people's health, the public health of our community. And for that same reason, I think it doesn't take that much to extend that logic to think about wearing masks as a similar kind of protection. And I think it's something that we could do as a community. So I'm asking for the same today that we've done before, that we wear masks and support any kind of mandate so we can help all of the people. I think it's your responsibility as elected officials to support the health of all of us, not just those who are capable of being here today. There's many people who can't be here, children who can't be here, and not just those who are the loudest and most vocal, but maybe those who are the most vulnerable in our community. So I don't think it's all we can do. I think there's a lot more we need to do than that, but I think it sets good groundwork and it's a step in the right direction. This is of concern. Cases in Ohio are increasing, cases in our county are increasing. So this is something of vital importance, and I appreciate your time and attention. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Dr. Manning? Mr. President?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to ask Dr. Manning a question.
Go ahead.
Dr. Manning, I have a lot of respect for you as a social scientist, and I would like to ask if you have some suggestions on how we can effectively persuade people in Bowling Green to comply with this, with mask wearing in public places, especially in stores. What ideas you might have on how we can persuade and perhaps also enforce in an effective manner?
I think a multi-pronged approach is probably best. So I realize that just making an ordinance alone is not enough, that we need to set up social norms and expectations. I'm a sociologist, so this is exactly the kind of work we study. And we're very, I think just making a law isn't going to be enough. And as a community, I've seen a lot of great movements that support the idea of wearing masks. But I think when we have large groups of people who are going to be coming back to campus, I think we really need to set something in motion before they get here. And I'm not a huge fan of large fines, but I think if we don't set some kind of expectation, then we'll be sunk. So we really have to try on many fronts, but this is just one of them. So I think some of your ideas you've put forward in terms of setting up social norms and I've seen it in shops and stores around town. I prefer to go to those stores. I don't really want to go somewhere where they don't require masks. I'd rather not. So I think the more we can do on that front as a town, will be better. And we can set ourselves apart. We can stand out.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Next person is Rob Piasecki.
Could you state your name and address for us?
Absolutely. Robert Piasecki, 624 Orleans Bowling Green. I'm going to play off what the doctor said. I'm here on the same cause. Although I'm looking for a little bit more immediate action. I don't understand the delay in bringing this forward. This is an international pandemic, and all we have to do is wear a mask. I have a mother that's almost 80 years old, and I'm concerned about her health because somebody doesn't want to wear a mask because it's an inconvenience to them. There's not a large cost in these. There's many organizations in this town you can get one for free. I think we can lead, we can show. Unfortunately, I saw our mayor move his chair and not even respect the 6 feet that is recommended for this. I got a lot of respect for Mike. I sat on council with Mike. But these are the kind of little things that we're doing that we're saying, this isn't important. I'm wearing my mask, this is fine. It's not enough. We need to make this now. You have to wear a mask if you're in public in Bowling Green. Let's care about Bowling Green residents. Please, let's do this. We can bring forth an emergency thing. We can do this. I know that you can do this. You guys can do this. Please do this. Care enough about Bowling Green residents. You're here to represent us. Keep us safe, please.
Thank you, Rob.
Last person is Anthony King.
Anthony, if you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Anthony King.
Address.
215 East Poe Road.
Yep.
I appreciate the people that came before me talking about the pandemic that we're going through right now. I would like to say that we're going through another pandemic that seems to leave the mind of a lot of people that it's not affecting right now. This mask is hard to talk in. Black people are scared. Black people are scared across America, and Black people are scared in your community and the Bowling Green community. A lot of people would rather be here to talk to you guys, to speak to you guys, but they fear for their health. And they believe that they could be killed if they were to come and speak their minds and tell you what the fears that they actually have and what keeps them up at night. And so I'm here to talk to them. We need to be represented in the policies that you guys have. I'm the founder of Brave Black Rights Activism, Visibility, and Equality. One of the things that we're going to do is to make sure Black people have a space in this community to freely embrace their culture. And one thing that I feel like you guys could do will be to represent us on more of a political government space. I know thinking about this may make you uncomfortable. It may make you uncomfortable that you can go home and sleep at night and be happy, and there could be a person down the street from you that's worried to leave their house, and that's worried to shop at the local Kroger, and that's worried to shop at the local market, and has to think about whether or not they want to risk their life every single time they call a police officer. Like myself, I would not call a police officer if something were to happen. If someone broke into my apartment, I would not call a police officer, because to me, that would be adding another risk on top of another one. And it's sad to say that I'm definitely not the only person of color that feels this way. And frankly, we feel like the Bowling Green community has not tried hard enough to take care of this problem. Because we are also members of this community. And we also pay tax dollars, and we also work in your community. I know you see us in your community, maybe not on Main Street. That's another conversation for another day. But we need to be represented, and there needs to be policies put in place that help us specifically. Racism is a very specific problem, a very, very specific problem. And it needs very, very specific solutions that are tangible. I'm going to stop talking in a minute, and I'm going to go home, and I'm going to go to sleep tonight, and I'm going to be scared when I wake up in the morning. And I'm going to be scared for my little brother, and I'm going to be scared for my friends that are in Bowling Green. And we're going to be scared for each other. And you can go to sleep tonight with your families and feel safe. But there are people in your community that do not have that luxury, that do not have that privilege, and that needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Brings us to the introduction of new legislation.
Mr. President,
Mr. Robinette.
on behalf of the Finance Committee, I have two ordinances. One providing supplemental appropriations for the current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Bowling Green, Ohio during the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2020 and ending December 31st, 2020. And an ordinance authorizing the municipal administrator to enter into an agreement with Staffed Right LLC for temporary staffing services and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President,
Councilmember Rowland.
from the Parks and Recreation Committee, I have, no, from the Committee of the Whole, excuse me, from the Committee of the Whole, I have a resolution affirming Bowling Green City Council's commitment to racial equality. And from the Parks and Recreation Committee, I have a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a conservation easement agreement with Black Swamp Conservancy.
Thank you. Councilmember Leontis.
Yes, Mr. President, I have an ordinance authorizing the utilities director to advertise for bids and enter into a contract for electric distribution improvements at the water pollution control facility. I also have an ordinance authorizing utilities director to advertise for bids and enter into contract or contracts for the lease of certain municipal property for agricultural purposes. And I believe I have also another one. An ordinance accepting a deed from HCF Realty of Bowling Green for right-of-way and utility purposes on West Poe Road. I believe those are all from our committee.
All right, thank you very much. That brings us to official reports. Mr. Mayor.
Good evening. The city remains focused on our efforts related to the challenges associated with the COVID virus. We continue to focus on those things that we need to do to provide essential services to our community. I also wanted to report this evening that I did check with Finance Director Brian Bushong this afternoon, and I was informed that we have received our portion of CARES funding that was distributed to the county via the state, via the federal government. We continue to analyze guidance that is coming to us from the U.S. Treasury Department in terms of what are allowable expenses of these funds. Right now, our focus is on safety services and direct expenses related to COVID. But again, this is a fluid situation. Guidance is evolving, and we're certainly following all those developments, and we'll make sure that we make good decisions on how we utilize those funds in our community. I've been talking with staff in the last several days about the challenges associated with COVID, and remarking that I believe that we have to not allow ourselves as a organization or as a community to necessarily be paralyzed by COVID. Of course, we're being presented with unprecedented challenges, and we're working hard to overcome those challenges. But we need to continue to take a look at big picture strategic efforts and goals. We need to take advantage of opportunities that will present themselves as a result of the COVID episode. To that end, we continue to pursue capital projects that will benefit the city in an effort to take advantage of economic markets, favorable economic markets and opportunities that are being presented. And I also wanted to talk with staff about our strategic goals that were presented at the beginning of this year. Both those goals that were presented from my office and the goals that were identified by City Council. I think that it's important, if we're going to look ahead, and we need to do so, we need to look back and determine what it was that was identified as those things that were important for us to pursue strategically throughout the course of this year. So I'll be working with staff over the next couple of weeks to look back at our goals that were identified, track our progress, and there has been progress made, and then work with City Council and staff to determine what might be a reasonable way to move forward the second half of this year in an effort to allow ourselves to continue to pursue our strategic goals in an effort to not become paralyzed and still find ways that we can improve our community. That's my report unless you have any questions for me.
Does anyone have any questions for the mayor this evening? No.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. It's great news about the CARES funding, and that's very specified how that money can be used, of course.
It is.
So can that be used to help with expenses at with the fire division or the police division? Those are the type of safety.
That's one of the things that we're looking very closely at. Yes, we do know that those funds would be available to be used for equipment or PPE purchases that were necessitated by COVID. We also believe that there could be the possibility to use some of that money for salaries for those safety members of our safety forces that were their efforts were directly dedicated to COVID response. So again, we're taking a look at all of the guidance as it's presented to us, and taking a look at all of our operations and finding ways that we can best utilize those funds.
Thank you. If some employer was having difficulties getting enough masks for their customers or their employees, is that a possible use of that money, or is that?
I believe that
a
is,
bit of a
yeah,
stretch?
that was suggested earlier today, and that's something that we'll take a look at and figure out how we could potentially identify a community partner that could help us in that distribution effort.
Great. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we go too much further, I do want to thank all of the city staff who are here in the room with us tonight, because I think that in the last 3 months, this is the largest single group of staff that we've been able to have at any one time. So thank you very much for attending. We've missed your smiling faces.
And we are assuming you're continuing to smile even now.
Well, we can't see, so we'll assume what we want. Municipal Administrator, Ms. Treader.
Good evening. Just a very brief request of council. You have before you an ordinance for the lease of municipal land for agricultural purposes. We're requesting that that be accelerated and passed at your July 20th meeting, if you would please. That would allow us to advertise that. And that's all I have, subject to your questions.
Are there any questions for Lori?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I was very pleased to see the efforts being made to make the office space safer for our employees. And I'm hoping the answer is no. I'm just wondering if there have been any cases among our staff, and if so, has the reason for those that been determined and any preventive measures taken?
Due to health privacy, we cannot say that in particular, but we of course adhere to safety guidelines. And even if we encourage every morning employees have to take a self-evaluation quiz. They're encouraged to stay home if they're sick. And if anybody is sick with anything, they are encouraged or they are told to go home. People are not here working sick. And we provide masks to our employees. If they're in any public areas, they're supposed to be wearing masks, and we have a lot of guidance that's out to them.
One more question, Lori, is any kind of testing being made available on a routine basis for our key personnel at this point?
They would be eligible, yes, especially first responders. Should they be showing any symptoms, we work very closely with the health department.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Planning Director. Are there any questions for Ms. Saylor? Nope. Parks and Recreation. Are there any questions for Ms. Otley? Okay. City Attorney.
I wanted to report that, I don't know, Bill, what's it been, a year? We've been working with the Days Inn, almost 2 years, trying to clean up a bad situation out there with uncooperative owners. So last Tuesday, we gave up trying to do it as a joint venture. I did file a lawsuit in common pleas court to close the hotel. On Thursday, there was a hearing before Judge Mack. She ordered the hotel closed. It has been closed. It remains closed right now. There's a court order posted on the door out there until they relieve the really serious safety hazards, including some structural hazards. I think it's going to stay that way. There's another hearing on July 14th, where the owners, if they choose to, can appear in court and see if they can get rid of the order. I'll thank the chief because he's devoted an enormous amount of time to this for a couple of years, and also the state fire marshal and the building inspector, Mike Rudy from Wood County. Their testimony by way of affidavit, which is how we're doing it now during this COVID time, was real important. And I don't know, how many pictures did you have, Chief? We had all those pictures were a part of the chief's affidavit and were important in establishing a record. And so it's not something they're particularly happy about. I'm not one to say I'm glad to have to do something like that. In fact, I think I spent the last year trying to avoid doing that. Not something the city wants to see. But frankly, there was an unwillingness there to even clean the place. I mean, it just had to be done. So if you have any questions, I'm always around if you want to call or talk about
Mr.
it.
Marsh? Mr. Marsh?
Yeah.
Just a quick question. Were there any long-term residents still living there?
Not by the time we filed.
Okay, so there was no issue with having to.
Well, yeah, there were Job and Family Services actually was probably their best customer, Neocles, and but they eventually had moved everyone out, and we kind of gave them warning that I was coming. And so by the time we filed on Tuesday, there was no one there.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad to hear that that worked out.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Mr. Marsh. Utilities Director. Are there any questions for Mr. O'Connell? Okay, thank you very much.
Excuse me. Yeah, I do. I have a question. I understand that we're going to be moving on the battery project. Is that going to be? Are we going to be seeing that on July 20th?
Probably not. We basically what the Board of Public Utilities approved was to enter into negotiations to develop a draft contract. We would then bring that contract back to the board and share that with the board and explain the details of the contract with them. We just got letters out to the responders, to the three that responded that we didn't select, and then to the one that we did select, that the three didn't get it, and then the one that we selected, we're going to start negotiating with them. So it'll take some time for that to occur. I'm hoping they have a draft of a contract they've used in other situations like this or other requests like this, because we obviously don't have a standard or a draft contract ourselves for this installation. This is very unique. So we'll see what they submit, and I'm sure we'll have Mike, Mr. Marsh involved, as well as maybe some other, maybe another attorney that we're familiar with that has experience in power supply contracts. And so it'll take some time for us to get to that point to bring it back to the board.
Thank you very much. And I have one more question.
Yes, sir.
This is a tough time for people on limited incomes and people who have lost their jobs. And we talked about this at the last meeting, the issue about utility bills being paid. And I'm just wondering if you could reassure us that you're working with Salvation Army, with other entities, so that people don't get cut off who may be in a situation where they're not getting the unemployment benefits they need or whatever. So we can help them to transition and not lose their access to utilities?
Yeah, we do that in every situation. We've done it in past years. We refer people to Salvation Army, to HEAP, to churches, to other affiliations. We have always done that.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I don't see Mr. Kraft here. Is Mr. Kraft not here? Okay. All right, so that brings us to council committee reports. Do we have any committee reports this evening?
Mr. President, I just, a reminder that, and we discussed this last meeting, but it was in passing, I think, but there will be a finance committee meeting on August the 3rd at 6 p.m. And that was moved from an originally scheduled second meeting in July. 6 p.m.
Okay, any other committee reports? All right, this brings us to the reading of legislation. Okay, could you lead us in the reading of legislation?
Yes, legislation for first reading, resolution number 3772 for first reading, resolution affirming Bowling Green City Council's commitment to racial equity.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Rowland.
I move that we suspend the rules and give the ordinance, give the resolution its second and third reading.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I was part of the team that drafted this resolution. We spent 3 weeks doing it. We researched many community resolutions from other towns. We took note of what the university was doing, what other universities in town were doing. Did that because we are a university town. And I think it's very well written with goals that are attainable. And it doesn't cost the city a lot of money. It just costs us paying attention, where more attention is.
Okay. Kay, could you give it a second and third readings, please?
We need to vote first.
Need to vote?
Okay,
Hollenbaugh,
yes.
Leontis,
Yes.
Phipps,
Yes.
Robinette,
Yes.
Roland,
Yes.
Zanfordino,
Yes.
Harold.
No.
Okay, the rules are suspended to give resolution 3772 its second and third reading.
Resolution number 3772 for second and third reading, resolution affirming Bowling Green City Council's commitment to racial equity.
Mr. Chairman, I move we pass resolution 3772.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on resolution 3772?
Yes, Mr. President, I'd just like to say I'm really proud to be part of this resolution. Sandy did a lot of writing of the resolution, which I think has been great. Sandy and I have been on council a long time, and we've voted on a lot of resolutions, but it was fun to be involved in the writing of one. And certainly want to say that Sandy wrote the majority of it. I chipped in a little bit, and then Rachel Phipps really did a great job of making it read as well as it does. My feeling is that, we're at a really interesting time in the U.S., and we certainly have a long way to go in terms of racial justice in the United States. And I feel that all bodies of government, however small, should take whatever steps they possibly can to try to address racial injustice. So again, I'm real proud to be a part of this. And I'd like to say that there's a lot of clauses and aspects to the resolution, but I'm particularly proud of and want to stress that the resolution will ask our police department to create a liaison to communities of color. And we had a speaker tonight who spoke of being afraid in Bowling Green, which is not an experience I generally have. But I've spoke to that young man, and you know, he spoke from his perspective, but he also said that he doesn't really have a lot of friends that would call the police in Bowling Green. And I think we need to be aware of that. This experience we have is not shared by people of color. And I spoke to another individual since our last meeting, had a really lengthy discussion with an older African-American woman. And she basically said the same thing amongst her peers. They will not call the police, and that's just their reality. So I think, you know, we need to be aware that even in our relatively benign situation, that America is what it is. So thank you, Sandy. Thank you, Rachel, for your contribution.
Yeah, I'd like to add my voice to John's. Sandy, thank you very much for taking the lead on this and producing an excellent resolution in a very short period of time.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Mr. Leontis.
I would also like to thank Sandy and John and Rachel for their leadership on this. This is an important first step. It lays out what we need to be thinking about, and now it's up to us in the coming months to flesh it out with concrete actions that take we're in a good place, but we can be in a better place. But we have to listen to what our minority community is telling us about what their experience is. Their experience is different from what the experience of people who are considered white might be. So we must listen and respect and not discount what we hear. And then we must look for best practices from other communities, and they are out there, and we have not adopted all of them yet. So there's room for improvement. And some of those have come out in the recent NIOT meetings, some of those things that need to be done. And to advocate for taking these measures is not to criticize what our police are doing, is to work with them to improve what they're doing. And I've heard from Chief Hetrick that he's committed to continual improvement. I've heard that from our mayor. So I think we're all on the same page on that. Thank you.
Any other discussion on resolution 3772?
Mr. President?
Mr. Harold.
First, in concerning the vote to suspend the rules, I wanted to explain why I voted no, and that was because I felt that if we gave it time to have more than just one reading, we would give multiple forums, multiple opportunities for the word to get out. And I view that as a positive thing. Of course, you know, you can make an argument to get it passed in one night, but my thinking was err on the side of additional readings and have the added benefit of having the chance for people to come and voice their views on it, say they're in favor of it, et cetera. So that's the reason for that. I agree with John that there's a lot of good in the resolution. If I were to make any critique, it would be that I think that the tone could have been a little better, but that's not enough to have me vote against the resolution. I think all in all, it is a good step forward.
All right. Thank you very much, Bill. Any other conversations surrounding the resolution?
Mr. President, are we planning to read it so that the public can hear it?
Andy, do you have a copy of it that you want to read?
We'll have a copy.
I don't have my glasses on. Hey, do you mind reading, because you have a sweet voice that
I'm going to
projects
have to
well.
do this because my glasses fog up.
Oh, you're
so-
having, okay.
So anyway, whereas as there has been an outpouring of grief, sadness, and pain over the recent deaths of Rayshard Brooks, George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and Breonna Taylor. And whereas institutional and structural racism has plagued this country since its founding, and there's a cry across America for public officials to take bold action. And whereas Bowling Green is not immune from the kind of racist systems that have perpetuated in the United States and around the world. And whereas, according to public health officials, racism is a public health issue. And whereas Bowling Green is responsible for protecting the health and safety of its residents. And whereas City Council supports our Bowling Green Police Division, including their efforts to listen and learn about issues of racial injustice. And whereas diversity of experiences and voices in city staff, within the police division, and among elected officials makes Bowling Green stronger. And whereas Bowling Green is committed to equity, fairness, justice, and protecting its most vulnerable residents. And whereas our community officials, our city staff, our university, our police, our schools, and our residents must deepen their understanding of the effects of systemic racism on people of color by listening, learning, and responding accordingly. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Bowling Green, County of Wood, and State of Ohio, that City Council pledges to listen and learn in order to take meaningful action on racial injustice to ensure that people of color are treated equally in every encounter with the city and in receipt of city services. That City Council seeks to increase diversity present throughout all city departments and divisions. That City Council pledges to ensure that there are transparent processes across all city government for investigating employee misconduct and employing progressive discipline. And that an existing police officer be assigned the duty of liaison to communities of color, just as the police division assigns liaisons to school-age children and other community groups. Outreach to communities of color should be formalized. That the Human Relations Commission create a series of city-sponsored listen and learn events with the goal of educating city staff and the public on the history of racism and furthering the discussion on these issues within our community. This resolution shall take effect at the earliest time permitted by law. Thank you.
Okay. Then Kay, I believe we just need to vote, right?
Yes. Leontis,
Yes, I support it.
Phipps,
Yes.
Robinette,
Yes.
Roland,
Yes.
Zanfordino,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbaugh.
Yes. All right, so resolution 3772 is adopted.
Resolution number 3773 for first reading. Resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a conservation easement agreement with the Black Swamp Conservancy.
Mr. President,
Councilmember Rowland.
I have a, I move that we suspend the rules and give resolution 3773, or 3773, its second and third reading.
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded. Kay, could you call the roll?
Phipps,
Yes.
Robinette,
Yes.
Roland,
Yes.
Zanfordino,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbaugh,
Yes.
and Leontis.
Yes.
All right, the rules have been suspended for resolution 3773.
Resolution number 3773 for second and third reading. Resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a conservation easement agreement with the Black Swamp Conservancy.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Rowland.
I move we pass resolution 3773.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on resolution 3773? Kay, could you call the roll?
Robinette,
Yes.
Roland,
Yes.
Zanfordino,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbaugh,
Yes.
Leontis,
Yes.
Phipps.
Yes.
Okay, resolution 3773 is adopted.
Ordinance number 8556 for first reading. Ordinance providing supplemental appropriations for the current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Bowling Green, Ohio during the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2020 and ending December 31, 2020.
Mr. President,
Mr. Robinette.
I move that we suspend the rules and give ordinance 8556 its second and third readings.
Second?
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded. Okay, could you call the roll?
Roland.
Yes.
Zanfordino,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbaugh,
Yes.
Leontis,
Yes.
Phipps,
Yes.
Robinette.
Yes.
All right, the rules have been suspended for ordinance 8856.
Ordinance number 8856 for second and third reading, ordinance providing supplemental appropriations for the current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Bowling Green, Ohio during the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2020 and ending December 31, 2020.
Mr. President,
Mr. Robinette.
I move to adopt ordinance 8856.
Second.
Okay, it's properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay,
Zanfordino,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbaugh,
yes.
Leontis,
Yes.
Phipps,
Yes.
Robinette,
Yes.
Roland.
Yes.
All right. Ordinance 8856 is adopted.
Ordinance number 8557 for first reading, ordinance authorizing the municipal administrator to enter into an agreement with Staffed Right LLC for temporary staffing services and declaring an emergency.
Okay, could you repeat that ordinance number?
8557.
No, it's 8857.
8857.
Yeah, it is. Wow. Yeah, you're right.
Okay,
I've been saying it wrong all along. I wrote them down wrong.
okay.
So it's 88.
Thanks.
That was 8856 and this was 8857.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right.
Oh, you got, where's number one?
Number one.
I think I remember number one.
I can get number one.
Ah,
Okay, so that's 8857.
all right. So just to get back to where we were, you've given it its first reading, correct?
Yes, sir. Mhm.
Mr. President,
Mr. Robinette.
I move to suspend the rules and give ordinance 8857 its second and third reading.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded. Kay, could you call the roll?
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbaugh,
Yes.
Leontis,
Yes.
Phipps,
Yes.
Robinette,
Yes.
Roland,
Yes.
Zanfordino.
Yes.
Okay, the rules have been suspended for the newly anointed ordinance 8857.
Ordinance number 8857 for second and third reading, ordinance authorizing the municipal administrator to enter into an agreement with Staffed Right LLC for temporary staffing services and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President,
Mr. Robinette.
I move to adopt the emergency clause for ordinance 8857.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded. Okay,
Hollenbaugh,
yes.
Leontis,
Yes.
Phipps,
Yes.
Robinette,
Yes.
Roland,
Yes.
Zanfordino,
Yes.
Harold.
Yes.
All right, so.
Mr. President,
Yeah, go ahead.
I move to adopt ordinance 8857.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded. Do we want to have any further discussion on ordinance 8857? Okay,
Leontis,
Yes.
Phipps,
Yes.
Robinette,
Yes.
Roland,
Yes.
Zanfordino,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbaugh.
yes. Ordinance 8857 is adopted.
Ordinance number 8858 for first reading, ordinance authorizing the utilities director to advertise for bids and enter into a contract or contracts for electric distribution improvements at the water pollution control facility. Ordinance number 8859 for first reading, ordinance accepting a deed from HCF Realty of Bowling Green Incorporated for right-of-way and utility purposes on West Poe Road. Ordinance number 8860 for first reading, ordinance authorizing the utilities director to advertise for bids and enter into a contract or contracts for the lease of certain municipal property for agricultural purposes. Legislation for second reading. Resolution number 3770 for second reading. Resolution adopting and authorizing an amended Community Development Block Grant Housing Policy and Procedure Manual. Resolution number 3771 for second reading. Resolution creating a designated outdoor refreshment area for downtown Bowling Green and enacting regulations.
Mr. President,
Mr. Harold.
so that we can get this to the state where they have to also approve it, and keeping in mind that the period for this ends Labor Day, I move that we suspend the rules and give Resolution 3771 its third reading.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded. Okay,
Phipps. Phipps.
Yes.
Robinette.
Yes.
Roland.
Yes.
Zanfordino.
Yes.
Harold.
Yes.
Hollenbaugh.
yes.
Leontis.
Yes.
All right, the rules have been suspended to give Resolution 3771 its third reading.
Resolution number 3771 for third reading. Resolution creating a designated outdoor refreshment area for downtown Bowling Green and enacting regulations.
Mr. President,
Mr. Harold.
I want to verify that we did undergo the necessary advertising.
Yes.
Excellent. I move that we adopt Resolution 3771.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All right, okay,
Robinette.
Yes.
Roland.
Yes.
Zanfordino.
Yes.
Harold.
Yes.
Hollenbaugh.
yes.
Leontis.
Yes.
Phipps.
Yes.
Okay, Resolution 3771 is adopted.
Ordinance number 8853 for second reading. Ordinance for cleaning of streets by special assessment. Ordinance number 8855 for second reading. Ordinance creating and adopting section 150.49 of the codified ordinances of the city of Bowling Green, Ohio, establishing the Gateway zoning district.
Mr. President,
Mr. Harold.
I want to verify, Kay, that the public hearing is July 20th at 6 or 6:15?
6:15.
6:15, thank you.
Legislation for third reading. Resolution number 3766 for third reading. Resolution adopting the estimate of revenues for the year 2021.
Mr. President,
Mr. Robinette.
I move to adopt Resolution 3766.
Second.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded. Okay,
Roland.
Yes.
Zanfordino.
Yes.
Harold.
Yes.
Hollenbaugh.
yes.
Leontis.
Yes.
Phipps.
Yes.
Robinette.
Yes.
All right, Resolution 3766 is adopted.
Resolution number 3768 for third reading. Resolution adopting amendments to Community Development Block Grant Citizen Participation Plan for the city of Bowling Green.
Mr. President,
Mr. Zanfordino.
I move that we adopt Resolution 3768.
Second.
Okay, it's properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay,
Zanfordino.
Yes.
Harold.
Yes.
Hollenbaugh.
yes.
Leontis.
Yes.
Phipps.
Yes.
Robinette.
Yes.
Roland.
Yes.
All right, Resolution 3768 is adopted.
Ordinance number 8850 for third reading. Ordinance authorizing the municipal administrator and the utilities director to seek qualifications and/or advertise for bids and enter into a contract or contracts for design, engineering, right-of-way acquisition, construction, and other services relating to the Economic Development Administration grant funding projects.
Mr. President,
Mr. Robinette.
I move to adopt Ordinance 8850.
Second.
Okay, properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay,
Harold.
Yes.
Hollenbaugh.
yes.
Leontis.
Yes.
Phipps.
Yes.
Robinette.
Yes.
Roland.
Yes.
Zanfordino.
Yes.
All right, Ordinance 8850 is adopted.
Ordinance number 8852 for third reading, ordinance accepting an easement for utility purposes from Whitson Properties LLC.
Mr. President,
Mr. Leontis.
I move that we adopt ordinance 8852.
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay,
Hollenbaugh,
yes.
Leontis,
Yes.
Phipps,
Yes.
Robinette,
Yes.
Roland,
Yes.
Zanfordino,
Yes.
Harold.
Yes.
All right, ordinance 8852 is adopted. Is there any other business to come before City Council this evening? I would like to say that it is my desire that on our July 20th meeting, we will give 3 readings to and grant an emergency on a mandatory mask ordinance, which has yet to be crafted. This brings me no joy, but back on May 18th, when businesses were opening up again, City Council passed a resolution. And there were a number of things in that resolution. One was our support for businesses as they opened up, conditional to it being in a safe manner. And there were several things suggested, including the CDC guideline that people should be wearing masks. As things seem to have started to take a turn for the worse, and due to a lack of people voluntarily on their own wearing masks in public places, that's what prompted my feelings on this. That's what I have to say about that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Ms. Rowland.
I would like to just advocate for our moving at a faster speed. We're talking about people getting what could be a fatal illness. And I think that we are equipped to draft some good legislation. We now have many cities in the state of Ohio that have done it. We have many that we could pattern ourselves after. We know that other communities have been doing this, and I would hope that all of us would have faced our responsibility and read what others are doing and start concentrating on what we may have to do here. I am also very sorry that we have to do this, but I would like to advocate that we have a special meeting next Monday and pass it at that time.
I'm not going to commit to that meeting right now. I will tomorrow send out instructions on the drafting of legislation, and depending on how efficiently City Council negotiates that process, we'll then look at whether this can or cannot be expedited.
Mr. President,
Mr. Harold.
so much of what we do on council here is balancing. We have to balance thoroughly researching something, but yet passing something. We have to balance taking the time to properly put legislation together, but moving expeditiously. We have mechanisms in place. We see it every meeting where we give 3 separate readings. As the default, we don't have an emergency clause as a default. But this being the case, we don't have the luxury of doing that. But on the other hand, we don't want to go so fast that either A, we put something together that's not great. We have the option of fixing things later, of course. But if you've been getting, well, I know you've been getting many emails.
And very, very popular.
Yes, you are popular, more so than usual.
Oh.
And with these emails, they at least the ones that I have received, and phone calls, one of which they actually suggested that I watch my back. The emails fall into two camps, basically. One is don't trample my individual rights, and the other one is protect the community. And that's another example of the balancing. And within the camp that's, has something to protect us, there's the move very quickly and move quickly. The July 20th deadline that you as president have put forth is quickly. And I think that this council can fashion something that gets us most of the way there by the 20th. But anything quicker, and I'm afraid we may be just moving too quickly. And then also, because of the nature of what we're dealing with, where we have restricted opportunities for citizen input, you've seen that even tonight, and it is polarizing the community, that gives us even more reason to go slow. Now, the July 20th is very fast, and just because of the situation here, I think we have to, as we do so many times, have to balance things and give time for citizen input, but also fashion something. Now, that's one outlook. To extrapolate a little bit on what Sandy's saying is we could just say, you know what, we don't have the luxury of time. We're going to take the Dayton ordinance, for example, and pass that. There's a few things that I think the Dayton ordinance, I mean, it's been praised by the governor and others, but there's a few things that we should be able to do to it to balance what our community wants. And I guess what I'm saying is July 20th is plenty fast.
Mr. President, I'd like to say that every day counts, and July 20th seems like, in the U.S., about 250,000 more cases of COVID down the road. So, I think every day counts, and I think whether we did this tomorrow or 6 months from now, there's going to be two camps on this issue. So I think time is more important than expecting concurrence. I know there's nothing drafted at this point, but I would be one member that would like to have a special meeting any day next week. It wouldn't have to be Monday.
Well, I'd like to say just off the top that the reason for setting the July 20th date has absolutely nothing to do with people's feelings, either for or against the idea of a mask ordinance. The setting of the July 20th date was based more on me knowing how council generally functions and wanting to make sure that we ended up with a document that was effective for Bowling Green. And to also afford people, although most people in town have contacted me already.
And some out of town.
To afford those who are living under a rock currently the opportunity to get in touch with their elected officials. I understand the sense of urgency, but I don't want to commit to a faster timetable at this moment and then not be able to achieve that. So I would just say, let's go forward into this week and see where we are on Friday. And if things get worse, and if we have a document that is a good document and an enforceable document, then we can have a discussion about approving it earlier. Everyone would grant me that much.
I'll be on your back.
Okay, everyone else is. Is there any other business? Okay, Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it has been properly moved and seconded. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.